Hallo lieve mooie zielen, wat fijn dat jullie kijken naar een filmpje van Spiritina. Ik wil verder gaan met de podcast met Darius J. Wright. Verder met ontwaken. Daar komen echt mindfucks. Laten we beginnen.
Right. And it's also, it's love, unconditional love, right? You can't have unconditional love with the judgment. And this also applies to this as well. People that are judging, right? So when people judge other people, they literally step out of unconditional love and they become no different from the very things that the very evil that they judge, right? This is where you'll hear me say sometimes, I don't necessarily work for the light, but I don't work for the dark either, because the light and the dark both have judgments on one another.
Wauw. En ik ging dat laten bezinken allemaal, want dat doe ik met alles wat hij zegt. En steeds meer, naarmate ik dat allemaal heb laten bezinken, al die informatie, is het, oh mijn god dit, oh mijn god dat, ik krijg allemaal van die soort van aha momenten. Wat hij zegt klopt. Zowel licht als donker oordeelt over elkaar. Dus we kunnen wel zeggen, oh we zijn zo verlicht en we zijn zo wakker en liefde en licht, wat ik natuurlijk ook zeg. Maar wij oordelen over de donker. Kijk maar bijvoorbeeld naar het kwaad wat gebeurt in de wereld. Hoeveel vol met oordelen we zitten over dat. Dus wij hebben ook oordelen. En weet je, en dan gaat het niet om of het logisch is en of het terecht is natuurlijk. Want ja, natuurlijk zijn we het niet mee eens dat dat allemaal gebeurt. Dat tenzijde. Maar we hebben ook oordelen. We zijn niet oordeelvrij. Zowel het donker niet als het licht niet. Wauw. En dat is wat ik altijd tegen jullie probeerde te zeggen. We hebben het allebei in ons, licht en donker. Twee kanten. Dualiteit. Gaan we verder.
And you'll begin to quickly see the foundation of that. They're actually no different, right? So.
I love what you said in regards to active and passive, because so many people do have the image of the yogi sitting in a cave in the Himalayas for 40 years meditating to find enlightenment. And that was at a certain time in history made sense, because humanity wasn't even capable of understanding, as history has proven. Jesus, not very well received during his lifetime, and so was Buddha and all of these great spiritual teachers. At that time, that made sense. But in today's world, it's different. You have to actively be working and doing things to change society with this knowledge that you are gaining, whether through meditation, whether through your own spiritual practices. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very active thing. And it's disheartening to watch, especially when you have a lot of the teachings now that are get rid of things that is an expression of the soul, right? Right.
Can you give an example of that?
Okay. So when people say, let's just say, get rid of your ego, right? Right. What people will realize once they leave the body or they die, that their thought process, who they are at this very moment, does not change. Everything comes with you. What you think right now, your emotions, what you feel, all come with you and is all presented, or it all comes with you on the other side. The only thing that changes is that you start to get memories of your experiences. All those start to come within your soul again. And you start getting clarity on why you act the way you act, why you do things the way you do things, and why you could say have done certain things within this realm in forgetfulness, right? Right now, each soul is, you could say, the highest version of themselves acting in forgetfulness here within this realm, right? Because they forget who they are, right? So all these things are aspects of you, your personality. Get rid of your ego. Never get rid of those. Those are expressions of your soul, right? It's an aspect of you.
Wauw. Dat is even toen ik dit hoorde, dacht ik, oh my god, inderdaad. Ik bedoel, ik ben natuurlijk ook een beetje met de New Age, zit ik ook een beetje in, hè? Niet zo 100%, zoals ik al eerder zei. Ook aan de New Age kant zijn dingen waar je mee op moet passen. Maar toch zit ik een beetje meer aan die New Age kant. En inderdaad, er wordt continu maar gezegd, je moet je ego kwijtraken. Maar hij zegt, nee, je hoeft helemaal je ego niet kwijt te raken. Je ego is een expressie van je ziel. Waarom zou je dat weg willen hebben? En hij gaat dat zo meteen ook uitleggen. Dus zoals ik het zie, is, ja, je moet bewust worden wat je ego is. Daar sta ik dan achter, hè? Dus word je bewust van, wat is mijn ego? Wat vertelt het ego mij? Dus de dingen zoals ik ben waardeloos en al die dingen, is een stem van je ego. Ik denk dat je het eerder kan zien als, misschien is het gewoon alleen de matrix-programmering die je dat vertelt. Ik ben nou nog niet 100% achter of het nou echt je ego is, of dat het echt die programmering is die we krijgen. Maar laten we teruggaan op ego. Je moet helemaal niet je ego kwijt zien te raken. Ik denk dat je het meer alleen bewust moet worden wat het is. Dat is wat ik denk. We gaan verder.
And it's basically like saying it's a spiritual warfare on the soul once you start doing that, because you're trying to diminish the expression of a soul, and you cannot have ultimate expression of freedom with a limitation. So they're already trying to put limitations on the soul's expression.
It makes perfect sense. You said something that just echoed in my head. It's like everyone is capable of doing the things we're talking about and greater. And these exact words, if I may quote Jesus Christ, he said the exact same thing. You could do everything I could do and even more. Are these masters who walk the planet, can you explain to people what was actually happening to them? The Babajis, the Buddha, all these masters who walk the earth, what were they doing? What were they accessing within themselves that gave them the glasses that from they live, or the abilities of Neo? Because a lot of the stuff, I mean, Jesus's, miracles sound very yogic in nature. So like the masters of the yogis, levitation, biolocation, a lot of things that are talked about in the spiritual text. What are they doing, and what have they accessed within themselves to give them these kind of understandings?
Okay, so I'm not read up on things like that, like the masters and stuff like that. But what I can tell you is this, based off experience, my experience, is once you start accessing information and you start seeing these things, whether if that's through, because if they're doing meditation and then they're leaving the body, I would say they're leaving the body to access all the information, right? So once you access this stuff, like you see it, right? And you have no choice but to grow from it, right? You can't, once you open up the door and you walk through it, you can't necessarily walk back. It's a door that you can no longer,
Can't
go
forget
back.
it.
That's it.
Yeah.
You can't forget it. I mean, you could try, but it's very painful, right? Because you know the truth, right? So I would just say these people that you're bringing up, right, have just saw truth for what it is and started applying it in the physical sense to the best of their ability, and also teaching people that they have the same capability. A lot of people very quickly turn into a place of worship something outside of themselves, worship somebody, constantly giving their power away because this is what they've been indoctrinated and trained to do, right?
Ja, precies wat ik bedoel. Dat is het enige wat ik, dat is hetgene wat ik moeite mee heb, wat religie aangaat. Religie gaat heel erg over het aanbidden van iets buiten ons, onze kracht weggeven. Terwijl het in ons zit. Maar ook hij zegt dat, hè? Vervolgens. We zijn allemaal God eigenlijk. We hebben God in ons, laat ik het zo zeggen. Dus ik snap wat hij hiermee bedoelt.
To give their power away constantly through education systems, through work. Everything within this realm is pre-set up to make somebody give their abilities away, right? So when you worship something, automatically you have forgotten at the basic level that you are no different from that soul and have the same capabilities and capacity of that soul if you apply, right? Because it's a very active thing. So yeah, I mean, I hope that answers that.
Answers that question beautifully.
Yeah.
Now you've mentioned the halls of Amenti a few times. What the heck is the halls of Amenti? Is it like the halls of the Akashic records? Can you explain to us what that is?
Okay, so the halls of Amenti are like, when I talk about the halls of Amenti or the heavenly records, the cathedrals, these are just records, you could say, like a universal record database. It's like a in other terms, it's like a hard drive, right? That contains all of
the cloud.
Yeah, the cloud contains all the history of what has taken place through the realm through that time period as well. Now, when I access the halls of Amenti, it's just that it's accessing a certain point in time, while at the same time it's accessing the present, because the halls of Amenti are still a present thing that still exists. All exists here, which could be accessed. You see, so there still are beings there in the present time that are still, there, right? But they hold an entire database of records within the Egyptian and Atlantis time event, right? So that time in particular. And what's interesting is when you access certain things within the halls of Amenti, or even the heavenly realms as well, but I'll just stick with the halls of Amenti, they have like these tablets, or like you could say books, right? Or certain crystals, right? When I was in the halls of Amenti, I remember seeing the first time there was a crystal there, and that crystal had a white fringe around it, right? And once you walk into the door, the passageway, all the doors are open, by the way, but once you walk in there, this crystal would change based off the frequency of the soul. Mine was green, right? And so when each soul walks into that door, it will change, right? Based off the certain energy signature frequency that the soul is bringing at the time. There's also certain doors and passageways that you can access where when you touch something, it sort of downloads all the information within you, but it's not necessarily like you get every single nuance of it. It's almost like it's like you're getting the movie trailers. It's the trailer of the movie. You're getting all the good bits, and then over time, that slowly unpacks within you, and then you're like, okay, that makes more sense, etc., right? Also, in the halls of Amenti, they mapped out when you go down to all the way down the middle hall to the very end of it. They've mapped out the entire construct, all the 12 stargates, right? The entire realm that we live within, the 12 realms, 12 stargates, when they have it on like a table, and like they actually, the firmament, everything is there, and they have it all displayed. And in the halls of Amenti, there's certain halls as well that access due to frequency, right? So there's certain frequencies based off the stargates that they have aligned to within certain halls that you walk into, which gives you direct access to the many different realms within this construct. Because stars are based off certain frequency points, fixed dimensional space access points.
Hoor je wat hij zegt? Sorry hoor, mijn microfoon wilde niet unmuten. Op een of andere manier. Sterren zijn fixed. Hij gaat nog veel meer zeggen. De sterren staan standaard op dezelfde plek. Blijken ook niet te bewegen in de ruimte, hè? Wat Masa beweert. Ze staan gewoon stil. En het blijken een soort van toegangspoorten te zijn naar een andere dimensie, rijk, whatever, hoe je het ook wil noemen, frequency. Het zijn poorten. Er komt nog veel meer. Ik weet niet of dat allemaal in deze podcast komt, maar anders ga ik nog meer filmpjes laten zien waarin hij die dingen echt letterlijk uitlegt.
So can you go into what you see with the cathedrals and what information is there versus the halls of Amenti?
So it's all of the records of heaven, right? The point in time or the records of heaven and present as well, because heaven is still here, right? But what was interesting when I was in the heavenly realms, right, is what we call iPhones, right? Or like iPads, tablets, like they actually have these devices within heaven, and it's just that it's another database, you could say. It's a form of organic technology. I remember seeing a girl holding this device that looked like a iPhone, and I was just like, why does she have a phone?
Well,
like,
I mean, I can answer that question. Steve Jobs is on the other side now, so he's obviously manufacturing these in heaven. Obviously, he's now on the other side, and even God was like, these are fantastic. That's the only thing I could think of.
So that's a good one. But they have organic forms of technology, right? So So that's what they use within the heavenly realms, is what I've seen, like these tablets, these phone, but they're not phones, but they look very similar.
Oké, dat was wel even, dat was even grappig. Hij zegt dus dat in de hemelse rijken, de hemel, de rijk, want dat bestaat hier, dat, dat hij daar een vrouw zag met een soort van apparaat wat leek op een mobiele telefoon. Het is niet echt een mobiele telefoon, maar het leek erop. En dan gaan ze een grapje maken van Steve Jobs, die dat dan heeft uitgevonden, blijkbaar. Die is overleden, die is natuurlijk daar ergens. En dat God zei van, nou, een leuk ding, nou, kom maar hier. Ze maakt er even luchthartige grapjes tussendoor. Ik vond het wel grappig.
All right. And it's the same thing. When you touch it, it gives you access to an entire database of information of that which you want to access within the heavenly realms. Right.
Well,
even when I was there as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead.
Yeah. Even when I was there as well, like the cathedrals, right? When people think that somehow once you are on the other side and accessing these spaces, that you don't have pleasure. Pleasure exists on the other side. It's all the pleasures of physicality with no limitations. So inside of the cathedrals, right, there's actually, you could delight in your soul and its pleasures, right? Touching other souls, contact, all of it's there. Right.
Well, and when you were talking about technologies, I've heard so many near-death experiencers talk about the life review, where all their life is laid out in this kind of like Minority Report style floating screens that you can kind of like go into, and then there's also a feeling of, you feel everything on both sides. You feel what you did to somebody else and what somebody else did to you, and that technology sounds very in line with what you're talking about, this organic technology, and we use that for lack of a better word.
Yeah. So like life review, stuff like that, all exists. Like that happens, right? I remember being shown a small part of a life review, right? And I'll actually take this in two different ways, so give you context,
please.
But I remember seeing a life review with my uncle. He gave me a small part of it when I was coming out. This is a time where I was trying to access my Uncle Bob that passed away, deceased relative, right? And I was there, and then he was showing me certain things that I was doing here that was withholding love, right? And when he showed me that, it wasn't necessarily that he was judging me, right? Because we are the judges of ourselves. So you're not being judged for the things that you do on the other side. You judge yourself, right? The unforgivable sin is the sin that you can't forgive yourself for. So he was showing me very small things that I was holding back with love. And that brought me to my knees in pain, absolute pain, right? Because I realized who I was on the other side, who we all are, right? Because everybody realizes who they are and the divinity of each soul and all of the memories, right? And it's painful. So the love that you withhold here is the pain that you are going to carry temporarily anyways on the other side. It's not for eternal or anything like that, but you do feel emotion, right? Now, when you are accessing life reviews as well, right? It's like it's almost like a virtual reality, like you're in it, like you're physically in that experience as it's playing out. You could move all around it. You could view it almost like accessing, well, it's just like accessing the records, right? When you're accessing certain records, you're actually in that time event that has taken place, and you could view it from all different angles. You could walk, you could view it from that person's perspective, your perspective. So yeah, the life review thing is true. Yes.
The idea of parallel realities and the multiverse, which I'm not sure if they're the same or two different ideas, but that every time we make a choice, a major choice, not catch up or no catch up, but major choices, it splits off into another reality while this one continues, to see how that plays out, because that is something I've also heard in life reviews where they're like, oh, I wonder if I would have married Sally. Oh, well, hold on, here you go. This is how it would have worked out if you would have married Sally instead of breaking up with her in high school. And that went down the road, and you're like, oh God, thank God that didn't happen. Or something along those lines.
Yeah.
From your experience, tell me what it is.
Well, that would be giving you a potential, right? So,
Right,
so there are,
right.
yeah. So there are potential time events here, right? So potential time, all that you could say, all the potentialities, right, are there, right? Now there are fixed event markers within this realm, right? And so this is going to be like I'm going down this way, but then answering the question here, I just want to give clarity. So there's preset event markers within this realm. One of the ones that are right in front of your face is that eventually every single soul will wake up to the other side and access all things again, right? Through death, through dying. They cross over, the body dies, right? But you don't need to die. You could have a controlled out of body state to access that information. Now, there are many different, you could say, soul contract major event markers. So,
Oké, hier wil ik even op reageren, want ik moet af en toe wel even reageren hè, voor die copyright. Ik snap wat hij bedoelt. Ik heb altijd een gevoel gehad van toeval bestaat niet. En wat ik daarmee bedoelde altijd was, ik had het gevoel alsof bepaalde dingen al vaststonden, alleen de weg daar naartoe vrij is. Dus je hebt zeg maar in dat opzicht wel vrije wil in welk pad je kiest. Je kunt naar links gaan, je kunt naar rechts gaan, je kunt rechtdoor gaan. Maar er zijn grote time events, zeg maar, wat in jouw soul contract staat, die sowieso gaan gebeuren. Of je nou via een omweg gaat, via links of je gaat via rechts. Uiteindelijk komen al die wegen die wij dan bewandelen wel bij dat ene punt waar jij voor getekend hebt, wat moet gaan gebeuren. Dus dat is wat ik dan voel met toeval bestaat niet. Mensen komen op je pad voor een reden. Dat heb ik altijd gezegd. Dingen gebeuren met een reden, om van te leren. Ik snap wat hij dan bedoelt, door te zeggen sommige dingen, big time events, dingen in jouw leven, staan eigenlijk al vast. Alleen de weg naartoe is, nou, die mag je zelf beslissen. Of je neemt wel de bus en die brengt jou ergens, of je neemt die bus op dat moment niet. Het is een andere weg, maar uiteindelijk komen ze allemaal tot een bepaald punt wat moet gebeuren, omdat dat in je soulcontract staat. Heel interessant.
yeah. So as you're living your life, if this is the event marker right here, there could be thousands of different paths that you could take. It doesn't matter which one you take, but when that event marker is here, those paths will eventually converge and hit that final destination, right? Whether that's meeting a loved one or it's something major. Now, it's not all scripted, right? Not all things are scripted. Like the different paths are not scripted, but there are preset things. Yeah. Now, now, once you are, let's just say, making a choice in life, right? So your choice is to get on the bus or don't get on the bus, right? So you get on the bus, then you take the potentiality of that time. You're actually living it in that time event. Now, the potential of not getting on the bus, that will only go so far. It's not an infinite see the entire life of that soul for the death, right? It's just, it gives you you could say 10% of the potentiality of what could have occurred if you did not get on the bus, right? And then the rest, it just turns fuzzy at that point. So, yeah.
So it's when you, and I want people to be very clear about this. When you say markers, mile markers, for lack of a better word, these are big events in your life. So like meeting the loved one that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, let's say, or at least this next chapter of your life with, having children, not having children, getting this job that then spawns you off into a career, a car accident, a windfall of some sort, maybe financial, maybe spiritual windfall. Who knows? These are big markers that are laid out for you, and not laid out for you, that you've laid out. From my understanding, you've laid out yourself for the evolution of your soul in this lifetime. How you get between markers is open potentiality, where you can go, you can make a long left turn, you can go straight, you can go date Jenny, date Sally, date Bob, however you want to get down that road, you'll get, but eventually you're going to get to that mile marker. That's basically an explanation.
Yes, yeah. It goes back into what I was saying before. Like each soul is destined to become the greatest version of themselves. So when they set certain things, right? Not all souls set certain things either, right? Some souls do, like they have like a plan. This is where like even you'll hear certain people, parents, where the child comes in, right? To the parent,
Yeah.
and they say, "Oh yeah, I chose you. I'm happy I chose you this time." Right? Because certain things are set. So let's just say the preset one was meeting Mary, the love of your life, right? So what you just said, the path of getting there, not preset, but eventually converging and meeting that person, right? Let's just say on the sidewalk or something, was a preset event for that to converge at some point, right? Now, what happens after that, it's not necessarily preset because that's the paths that you could take, right? So it's just the major event markers, right? That are preset of what I've.
Interessant hè, lieve mensen, hoe dat gaat. Dus hij zegt niet, iedere ziel heeft alles gepland. Nee, heeft allemaal plannen gemaakt. Er zijn sommigen die misschien maar 2 dingen hebben gezegd. Dat en dat wil ik meemaken. En dat zijn dan je markers. Snap je wat ik daarmee bedoel? Die event markers, die sowieso gaan gebeuren. Of je nou links, rechts, er 5 jaar of 10 jaar over doet. Je komt altijd bij die event marker terecht. Super interessant.
Have been shown.
Now, is the multiverse something different than parallel realities, or are they both kind of the same concept from your point of view?
So the nature of reality, like I said, so you have constructs on the other side, which are, you could say, games, right? There are different versions of console, like Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, right? And then the realms are basically like the different versions of the game, like, let's just say Call of Duty 1, Call of Duty 2, etc. Now there are dimensional spaces as well. These dimensional spaces are thought forms, right? Thought forms that you project, you create with the will of the soul, the spoken word. You project, you create dimensional spaces through your thoughts that you could experience what you want as well. So
Oké, wauw. Dat is wat ze vaak zeggen. En wat ik vaak hoor is, jouw woorden zijn powerful, je gedachten zijn powerful. Wat je denkt, kan je creëren, manifesteren. Dat is wat hij bedoelt met dimensional spaces. Dus we hebben binnen die 12, 13, tussen haakjes, rijken in deze constructie, heb je ook nog echt duizenden dimensional spaces. En dat is dus jouw gedachte die manifesteert iets. Dat is dan een dimensional space. Dus daarom zeggen ze altijd, wees een beetje voorzichtig met wat je denkt en wat je zegt. Want je creëert dat, je manifesteert dat uiteindelijk. Dat is die dimensional spaces. Ik wilde het even in het Nederlands uitleggen.
So that's how it was shown to me anyways. So when it comes to time, potentialities, which we covered, and the multiverse, right? It's not necessarily, you could call it the multiverse. Yeah, but it's just that's the way that I've been shown anyways. Constructs around dimensional spaces once you're on the other side. So yeah.
Now, I heard that in other interviews you've done, you've talked about the construct ending, that this is how this whole thing is going to kind of finish.
Yeah.
Can you explain that to my audience?
Okay, so that's what I was shown at 16 years old by being called Celeste. And at 16 years old, I was shown you could say, completion of this realm, right? And how it was a big celebration. And that completion was basically all things reopening up again to all souls remembering all things again, the great event, right? Now, when I speak about that, I'm very hesitant anymore to speak about it because I don't necessarily want to turn into putting people's hope harvesting, anything like that. But that's what I was shown from the age of 16 of the completion of this entirety of this construct. Because
Wauw. Oké. We zitten dus in een... Nou snap ik ook waarom ik continu maar hoor. We zitten in de eindfase. We zitten in de eindtijd. Eindfase, bla bla bla. The Great Awakening. Jullie hebben dat vaak gehoord natuurlijk. Daar heeft hij dus ook al over. Ze hebben dat laten zien aan hem. We zitten inderdaad in een hele speciale tijd momenteel. waarin alles aan het licht gaat komen. We gaan alles te zien krijgen uiteindelijk. En ook wie we zijn en waar we vandaan komen, et cetera. Dus heel veel. Alles wordt zichtbaar. Dat is blijkbaar al door het verleden heen, als je over verleden praat, is dat ook gebeurd met civilizations, met is dat bevolkingen? Ja, zeg maar even ancient civilizations. Is dat ook gebeurd? Die zijn ook door dezelfde cycle gegaan van beginnen en dan steeds iets stukje voor stukje ontwaken. En die zijn ook naar die cyclus gegaan waarin alles zichtbaar was voor hun. Dat ze overal toegang tot hadden. Wij zitten nu in die cycle, in de cycle naar boven, waarin wij weer in die gouden eeuw terechtkomen. Dus dat alle zielen gaan ontwaken. Maar hij gaat zo meteen ook nog zeggen, ik weet niet of hij dat nu gaat zeggen, of dat hij dat in een andere podcast zegt, dat weet ik niet. Maar ik vertel het jullie vast. Hij heeft het ook over dat dit de laatste cyclus zal zijn van aarde. Omdat blijkt dat gedurende al die jaren dat de aarde al bestaat en wij op de aarde zijn, dus niet alleen wij, hè, maar ook vorige bevolkingen en engelen en weet ik veel wat allemaal, dat wij eigenlijk allemaal op een gegeven moment hebben geleerd hoe het is om te zien wat we niet zijn. De aarde is bedoeld geweest om te leren wat we niet zijn. Daarom hebben we dualiteit en extremen, et cetera. Ja, het gaat heel diep. We gaan verder.
Everything that could have been experienced has been experienced here from some soul, right? This is where you get the looping history always repeats itself, right? Because we've played so many different versions within this construct, within these realms, and they're all just, we played out all the roles, all the scripts, right? It's just repeat, repeat, repeat. Now, when it comes to an end of what I was showing, right, it's not necessarily an end because all of the information here is stored within the records of all things, right? But like, I need to be careful with that because then, it's,
I
people
understand.
start asking,
they turn into fear mongering, or
exactly,
they lead into fear and things like that, which which is not what we're trying to promote at all. But that does also make sense because if you've studied some of the Vedic texts, that there is these 26,000 year cycles where you start hot, you start evolved, then you start to go down till you get to the Dark Ages, and then you come back up. And we're in this stage right now of being awakened again. We're going back up. But then there's people who are saying this is the last cycle. And by the way, last cycle could be another 20,000 years, another, whatever, how many thousand years it is. Go ahead. You were going to say.
Yeah. So basically that's what I was saying. So the cycle's repeating, right? So we repeated these cycles over and over and over. We repeated them so many times. So what I was showing is that the cycles in terms of what you're talking about of repeating no longer repeats. Like it just comes to, I don't know how it actually looks. I just know what I was showing is that these cycles, these, the golden age and then back into the dark ages and the golden age, they stop. And then we all go back to the eternal aspect of our soul. Again, you could say on the other side, we're not bound by the cycles anymore, right? Because this was just this, you see what I mean?
I do.
Snap je wat hij bedoelt? Er zijn nog, wat ik eruit begrijp is dat die cyclussen niet meer gaan gebeuren. Die is wel diep hoor. Ik weet niet wat ik erbij moet voelen. Is dat dan echt het einde van... hoe ziet die einde van de cyclus uit? Dus er komen geen cyclussen meer. Dat is de laatste keer dat wij in een cyclus terechtkomen. Of zitten. Waar wij nu in zitten. Wat een bijzondere tijd om te leven trouwens. Wauw. Maar betekent dat dan dat wij allemaal overgaan, zeg maar, en dan verder gaan, want de ziel is eeuwig. Verder gaan in een andere wereld. En betekent dat dan dat aarde niet meer dat aarde er niet meer zal zijn in de zin van fysiek gezien. Want alle records van aarde zullen sowieso altijd bewaard blijven. Maar bestaat de plek aarde dan nog? Weet je, dat zijn vragen die ik me dan afstel als ik dit luister. Hè, wat hij daar dan precies mee bedoelt. Misschien begrijpen jullie het. We gaan bijna stoppen met dit filmpje. Ik denk dat het een mooie tijd is om het filmpje te stoppen. Ik ga hem in 3 doen. Maar de mindfucks die ik kreeg waren een aantal dingen. En dat zit nog niet in deze podcast. Dus er zitten in andere filmpjes en podcasts die hij ook heeft gehad. En waar hij ook informatie geeft. Die ga ik ook zeker laten zien. Zodra deze podcast over is, ga ik die filmpjes erbij pakken. Toen kreeg ik echt bepaalde mindfucks dat ik dacht, oh my god, ik begin steeds meer te begrijpen wat ze bedoelen. Wat je van heel veel mensen maar hoort. Dat zo boven, zo beneden, zo binnen, zo buiten. En ik vroeg me in het begin altijd af, ja, wat bedoelt men daar nou mee? Maar ik begin nu te begrijpen wat ze daarmee bedoelen. Stukje voor stukje begin ik steeds meer die puzzel in elkaar te leggen van, oké, dit. En dat het dus voor mij al heel veel dingen zijn, wat ik nu gehoord heb, wat dat symboliseert. Symboleert, is dat een nieuw woord? Ik heb een nieuw woord ontdekt. Dus er zijn meerdere dingen voor mij die dat symboliseren. Dat zo boven, zo beneden. Het zit in meerdere dingen. En ik begin het steeds beter te begrijpen waarom men dat zegt. Super interessant. Ik laat het hierbij, lieve mooie zielen. En ik wens jullie vanuit hier heel veel liefde. En heel veel waarheid. Namaste.